Hello. I wanted to pause in the process of releasing chapters for my podbook to send a personal message. Because in chapter one, I said I wanted this whole podbook to be a direct communication from me to you, that I was here, present, Tim, a 60-year-old guy in the middle of this bittersweet life, just like you, doing his best to make sense of it, and to keep that genuine sense of the connection of one human being to another. So I wanted to step outside the chapter structure for a moment and just say how it's going for me, because it's been a hell of a journey. As you may know, it's been 8 years, well, 12 really, if I include the period before Soul Story, of intense questioning and being amazed at the answers that were coming up for me, and then finding those and following them forensically and digging deeper and finding that every time I hit a new problem, and God knows I've hit so many, what I ended up with was better and worth the period of feeling lost or unsure, or that maybe I'd wasted all of this time, because what kept arising and keeps arising now as I go through this process seems really, really good. So that's what keeps me going, really, because it's, I knew that taking all these years off from being involved very publicly with things, that when I did come back, that I'd come back to a much smaller audience, much smaller reach than when I was doing my best-selling books, for instance, and reaching a lot of people. And of course, that's what's happened. And, that's frustrating. I wish I was putting out chapters and they were being watched by huge numbers of people. And as I make this right now, that's not the case. And that means my motivation to keep going comes from somewhere else. And the place it comes from, I think, is that I've fallen in love with these ideas, that they seem so beautiful and redeeming of the horrors and the suffering of life, but not in a superficial, naive way, in a strong, powerful, robust way. And they make sense of all of the powerful spiritual experiences I've had and I have, in such an elegant and life-affirming way, so that I find it easier to come into these, what I now call unividual states, this communion with something greater than me, this big love. Yeah. So it's been an amazing process, and it takes a lot of discipline to come out here every day to work on the ideas and to record the chapters. And I wanted to give you a sense of what's coming, because I'm aware, I feel at the foothills of a mountain range in some ways, and that can be exciting. It can be intimidating for me, and maybe for you as someone who's following the podbook. But there's so much I need to cover. This is comprehensive. What keeps me going, as well as my love of the ideas, is the sense that, well, it's two things really. There's a personal intuition that I just have to do this. This is what I need to do with whatever time I've got left alive. It's a very strong intuition. I follow it. And then there's a more general intuition, which goes, I really think that there are new spiritualities coming. I think it's inevitable, and it will be an evolutionary spirituality. And I hope that what I'm doing can play a role in that. Now, I don't know how much for a role, maybe nothing. Maybe it'll be central. Maybe it will play some big role. Who by the twists of fate? Who knows? It's very unlikely that will happen in my lifetime. Maybe after I'm dead, maybe not at all. But either way, that the effort, the time, the love that I pour into it will have a beneficial effect on those that come after her and who develop this new spirituality when I'm long gone. And I feel good about that. So I want to share this comprehensive vision which I've arrived at, and I'm still arriving at it, in all honesty, because it's been an intense journey and it feels like there's so much here of value. Just the beginnings of an understanding, but of value. So there's all these areas I want to cover. So I've released 17 chapters where I've said, look, these are some very central ideas. Now we're going to go into them more, and we're going to go into other areas as well, and it'll become more podcast-like in that we won't be following a strict get this. There'll be more a sense of, let's look at this area from this perspective, let's look at this area from this perspective, and so on. And there's a lot of areas. I don't want to get bogged down in one area because for some people that will be too much, but I can move around, I think, and just show, can you see that this philosophy casts light on all these different areas? So there's another 80 chapters that I've got here in front of me that I want to work on. The whole thing is probably going to be just under 99 probably chapters altogether. I don't know, somewhere around there. But these are the ones I've already got mapped out. The ideas are clear. I just need to sit down and record them, and then we'll release them. There's a few that's already been recorded, which is available to my online community who get to see the chapters first, on reincarnation, on free will, on the origins of existence, on mathematics. What the hell's that? But I want to get into, well, let me give you a taste. I mean, suffering. Why? What can we do about it? What should be the spiritual response? To escape? To accept? Inner conflict. We have so much inner conflict. How do we deal with that? And what does it mean to love ourselves? A very popular idea, but what does that actually mean? And then more scientific areas, memories. Do they exist in the brain? I'm not sure they do. When did consciousness evolve? When did the psyche evolve? Pre-human, but can we work out when? Or have a stab at that? Right now, computers, could they become conscious? I don't think so. I'd like to share why, certainly as we have them at the moment. There's that sense that you can have in life that things are meant to be. It's part of the whole magic and synchronicity of existence. Is that true? And if it's meant to be, who meant it to be? Meant to be by whom? Those sort of questions. Those slightly weird experiences that people have, which seem very significant to me. Out-of-body experiences, precognition. What can we make of those? Are they just to be dismissed? Or can we come to understand them? Going right into the near-death experience, looking at the skeptical views, which go, no, it's nothing to do with surviving death, and why I don't think those are adequate to the evidence. Epistemological questions. How can we tell if a spiritual idea is true? We know how we can tell if a scientific idea is true. How do we tell if a spiritual idea is true? And on the other side, is science the only way to truth? I don't think it is. And the things which are pertinent in spirituality, the kind of head versus heart thing. Oh, don't follow your head, follow your heart. That opposition, I think it's a fallacy. I don't think there is an opposition there. So we can get into that. Ideas about spirituality itself. Is it enlightenment, some waking up and getting away or seeing through the illusion? Or is it enlivenment and entering into the evolutionary process? There's the whole thing of the ego, the true self, and the no self. Which one is it? How do we see ourselves? I don't think any of those are good ideas, not as they're traditionally understood. I'd like to provide an alternative. Psychedelics. I often get asked about this, and they've been part of my journey. What's happening on ayahuasca? What's that? What's its significance? Why does it occur? that you ingest this plant and have this magical experience. And then some really more heavy-duty scientific stuff, which I think is central, especially in how they are linked to spirituality. And so I want to go into what gets called quantum mysticism, which is the way that quantum physics is used to support ideas in spirituality. And I think it's wrong. I think it's a misuse of quantum physics, and I would like to say exactly why and how I think we should understand quantum physics in the evolutionary picture. I'd like to say why scientific determinism, the fact that everything is being run by physics, is kind of woo-woo, I think, to turn the language back onto scientism that they use to dismiss spirituality. There's the idea that the world is an illusion created by your brain. I think that's wrong. I think we live in a real world. There's people that jump to the other side using my AI analogy and take it literally. Oh, we're living in a simulation. I think that's wrong, and I would like to say why. And then there's the idea that the initial conditions of the universe are so perfect. It couldn't have evolved by chance. There must be an intelligence. And I'd like to deal with that very important issue from this unividual perspective. And important scientific ideas like entropy, time, the fact that there will be a death of the universe. How does that fit into all of it? And then how this vision affects us not just individually, which is huge, but collectively, politics, if you like. Because I think unividualism leads to a really optimistic but not naive vision of where we can go next by understanding where we've been and having a bigger historical perspective on the moment, so you don't get pulled into just the nitty-gritty of right now, but can see a bigger picture. So I want to go, look, we think the alternatives, we tend to think, it's left or it's right. That's politics. But what if there's up? The unividual perspective. Maybe there's a completely different way of approaching this. We've been through this intense period of consumerism where we've become wealthy in just all over the world, actually, relatively, but certainly in Western cultures. What comes next? Once we've achieved that, is that it? No, I don't think so. And I'd like to talk about my own journey with all of this, not just my way I've changed my mind with spirituality and grown into something new, but changed my mind around politics and seen a new possibility. And that's needed a lot of self-reflection. And I'd like to share that as a kind of a personal case study, going, look, I found this quite hard to do, to reflect deeply on my assumptions here. But when I did, it got really interesting. And then finally, there's an idea which I'd like to deal with, that I may deal with quite soon in this area, which is how we can disagree wisely. Because there's a lot of conflict in terms of ideas within society going on right now. And we're not seeing each other. And a huge amount of unividualism is about seeing each other. And there may be some insights there which could really help. I do hope so. So there's that and lots more. These are just a few of the things that I want to explore. And I hope that I can keep the momentum up and the enthusiasm, having a God within, that's what the word means, having that sense of, yeah, I can do this, to share this vision that moves me enough to make me do all of this, and to want to take advantage of the new technology to give it away. Because life is short, and I would like to feel that I'd contributed everything I was capable of as best as I can. Because it's a bittersweet life. It's beautiful, isn't it? Amazing, but it is hard. And this vision changes my perception of what this is we're in a profoundly positive way, without being naive. And that seems of such value. And it helps me spend more time in a state of universal benevolence, a kind of a wishing well to everyone. And that makes me want to give what I can to everyone. I love the ideas, but I want to share them because I love you. And I hope they might be of some value. And that's what makes me do this. So I want to add a little addendum, because I showed that personal message that I just recorded to my gorgeous wife, Deborah, and she pointed out how bad I am at asking for the help that I need, and encouraged me to add this extra to the message, which is, you can help me. And if you're moved to, I need all the help I can get. So one of the things you can do is you can subscribe on YouTube or join my mailing list on my newsletter. You can become a member of the ICU, where you get access to all of our online sessions, and you can support me financially in what I'm doing. You can support me financially without joining the ICU. I'm very open to donations, and throughout my working life, it has been individuals stepping in with financial support that's made me be able to do what I do. It wouldn't have happened otherwise. And then there's sharing. Please, if you are moved by what I'm doing, share it with your friends. Write comments on the videos. It helps the algorithms. Do anything. Share it on social media. Talk about it with people. Help me create a little bit of a stir, because people don't know it exists. And for people to be able to evaluate the podbook and the unividualist philosophy, they need to know it's there. So all the help I can possibly get, I'm open for. I'm also looking for, of course, individuals who want to really get this and become involved with bringing it into the world, especially young people who are going to be around after I'm long gone. So, yeah, this is my addendum. Thank you to my lovely wife. I help.